Brain-dead hordes, bros with guns, and a feeling of pointlessness. We're not talking about the political climate in America. This is Black Ops 4. Black Ops 4 is a multiplayer first-person shooter developed by Treyarch and published by Activision. This year, Activision and Treyarch decided to go all in on that multiplayer and completely kicked the single-player campaign to the curb. Honestly, the fact that they did that really pisses me off because I think that we, as longtime fans of the series, deserve better. Especially when you consider that we're paying $60 for the standard edition with no single-player campaign. I honestly didn't think it was going to do that well, but then I started seeing a lot of the big streamers playing Blackout on their streams, and it did look pretty fun, it did look pretty polished, and I knew that it was definitely going to be better than PUBG, and it was definitely going to be a different experience than Fortnite. And obviously that gamble did pay off because they made $500 million the first 3 days alone. The game's already set a bunch of records for the franchise. It's got the most players ever. It's got the most time put in by individual players. And it's the game played the most hours so far of this entire generation of consoles and PC gaming. So Xbox One, PS4, and obviously PC. This game has been played more than any other game so far. One of the really cool things about this game is the fact that it's brought the numbers of Fortnite and PUBG way down, especially PUBG. It basically murdered PUBG. So as you can tell, the hype for this game is very real, but is the gameplay. So when I talk about video games, I'm going to tell you guys what I thought was good, what I thought was bad, and then I'm going to give you my score. Black Ops 4 gameplay comes in 3 flavors: multiplayer, zombie, and blackout. So because this game has 3 very different modes, I'm going to give my opinion on each of them, and then I'm going to give you my overall score for the whole package. That being said, let's check out multiplayer. I'm going to be honest, I wasn't excited for multiplayer in Black Ops 4 whatsoever. And that's because the last time I played multiplayer that I really enjoyed when it came to Call of Duty was Modern Warfare 2. Everything I've tried since then was the same old stuff, and it was really repetitive, really grindy, and really boring. But this time, the multiplayer is a really solid gameplay experience. I really love the way the combat feels when you're fighting somebody. You know, the feedback in the controller, the impact sound, everything comes together very nicely. This game can be especially fun when you play with people who actually communicate. If you are on a team with maybe 2 or 3 others who are actually talking, I guarantee you guys are going to win every single time. I didn't lose one match when I played with people who were communicating and actually cooperating. I really love the addition of active healing. It changed the whole dynamic of firefights and multiplayer in general. And to add a little more pop to the multiplayer, they basically combined the hero shooter genre with Call of Duty's solid gameplay. So they basically took the formula that Overwatch and Rainbow Six have made so popular, and they've done so well. The game has 10 different specialists, they all have unique abilities, and they all added a little something to the tried and true Call of Duty multiplayer. There's a pretty decent number of maps here. They launched with 14, and then they added Nuketown shortly after for free. The variety of weapons in multiplayer is pretty good. You get about 25 weapons, plus all of their unlockable attachments and all their unlockable skins. It adds, you know, a little bit more of a push to make you want to keep playing. And they've been continuously improving the balance of the weapons, and really any weapon in this game in the right hands can be a pretty deadly weapon. I've actually been using the pistol lately as my primary, and I'm doing pretty well with it. Heist is a pretty welcome addition. It definitely changes up the dynamic and the gameplay pacing. It's not so run and gun. It's basically Counter-Strike on Black Ops. I especially enjoy the hardcore modes more, as they are more of a test of skill. The time to kill and time to death are more realistic. It's just more of a challenge, and that's why you see less kill streaks and a lot less cheese in general than you do in the normal multiplayer mode. The progression system is a pretty big carrot on the stick. It's really what keeps you playing multiplayer. It's actually pretty fair and balanced as well. You don't have to grind your butt off for hours and hours and hours to unlock one thing. You get stuff at a pretty steady stream, and that's nice. When it comes to the specialist, I like playing as Crash, Recon, and Torque, since my natural tendency in gaming is to be a support player. So the thing about the specialist is, if you're more of a helperton like I am and you just want to make a difference for your team, you definitely can. Or if you're more of a solo lone wolf player looking for a sick KD ratio, there's something in here for you too. I really love carrying the rocket launcher as my secondary, or even a sniper rifle like the Paladin with double FMJ. You can really bring down those kill streaks in a hurry, and a lot of people don't do that. Not only are you helping your team, but you're getting a bunch of points that nobody's even bothering trying to get. Something else that I thought was cool is, if you don't have all the time in the world to keep playing this game all day every day, day and unlock certain weapons, you probably can play them in the preset class like Swordfish or the Carbon or something like that. And a lot of times in those presets, they'll have really cool attachments. The thing that I like about Black Ops 4 more than the other iterations before it is it feels like it's easier to get to that prestige level because you get more points for doing more things. There's more of a variety of stuff. So I think overall it's a lot better. You don't have to be that guy that runs around and gets 50 or 76 kills a game. You can play your part for your team and earn stuff. I really love the engineer perk and the team link perk, especially in hardcore, because you can see where your team is so you don't actually shoot them. And then you can see where all of the traps and the kill streaks and everything else from the other team are, so you can shoot them, especially if you've got some type of a weapon that has FMJ on it. The new specialists that they added are great, and they add a little something that wasn't there before in Black Ops or in Call of Duty in general. But don't expect Rainbow Six Siege or Overwatch levels of tide-changing mechanics or abilities from these players. Yes, some of their abilities are better than others, but none of them have an ability that's really going to sway, the outcome of a match. One of the things that myself and others have been dealing with over here is we're having a hard time connecting to certain modes, especially some of those that maybe aren't as popular. The spawn system in this game just sucks. The spawn system is total. There have been so many times where I've killed a bunch of people and then they spawn behind me and shoot me in the back of the head. They really need to fix the spawn system quick because it is really hurting the multiplayer experience. Nearly every map is designed the same way. They used to put a lot of thought into the maps, for the earlier games, but now every map is like a MOBA. 3 lanes, 1 down the center, 2 on the sides. It's very predictable and it can get really old really quick. Teamwork as a whole in this game does not exist, and almost no one uses their mics except to call you a or talk shit about you or your mom. There's not a lot of teamwork. So when you do get someone in here to play with you and they are actually communicating, really enjoy that because it doesn't happen often. Abilities and kill streaks are a real pain to get if you are more of a team-oriented player and not so much running around and getting those kills and all that kind of stuff. Now, once you do, they kind of stack up and, one will lead to another, and that's a good thing. But more often than not, you're really going to have a hard time, especially if you're trying to run out and save the day or make that big play that other people aren't bothering with because they're more worried about their KD ratio. And that's the thing. So many players in this game seem to forget that their whole job is to play the f***ing objective. Seriously, people, play the f***ing objective. With some of the game modes like Control, it's really easy to get pinned by the other team, especially when you're spawning, and that can be really problematic. It can be really frustrating. It can make people not want to play those certain modes. I know a bunch of people who won't play Control because they got so tired of getting locked down and not being able to move because every time they spawn, they were getting domed. Yes, there are like 25 weapons in the game, but they all have a similar look. They all have kind of a similar sound. I think the average number of weapons for the previous games was like 40 to 45. The game locks up a lot. For myself and my friends, there's been a bunch of times where we've been playing at least every couple play sessions where you're running around, you're shooting, and then the game freezes and all you hear is and you have to basically restart the Xbox, restart Black Ops, and then go back in and then start a whole new match. And one of the things that's really pissing me off is every time I launch the game, I get a notification from the black market. I don't want to hear about your microtransactions. I don't care about your extra game money that you want to make. You guys have already made like $1 billion off your players. So chill out, back off. You're going to get more money, but don't make me have to go ahead and click a bunch of buttons to get away from the microtransaction notifications. It's real fucking annoying. So as you guys know, whenever a Call of Duty comes out, they always launch 2 or 3 map packs, and it really divides the player base because not everybody can afford that season pass or those map packs or whatever it is. And of course, this time, straight from day one, about 25% of the game was locked behind a paywall if you didn't buy a $50 season pass. In this region, even when you are playing on solid internet, you are going to run into lag because the dedicated servers are elsewhere. So a lot of my firefights and a lot of my friends' firefights were losing because of the lag. We're talking like 200 ping. It's really pathetic. They definitely need more servers in this region. It's total bullshit. They know how many players they have over here. There's a huge player base, not just for video games in general, but definitely for Call of Duty. So the fact that they're leaving those players in the wind is pretty wrong. And this whole thing with the specialist headquarters and people talking about, oh, there is a bit of single player. Dude, that's not single player. Don't tell me specialist is single player. That is a bunch of tutorials dressed up as single player with a bunch of fragmented little cutscenes that make no sense whatsoever. And you could tell that they were an afterthought, that they were part of this broken single player campaign that was supposed to originally happen, and they didn't release it and made it into a tutorial. That's not a single player campaign, and it's not a real story either, so don't tell me that it's either of those. So that's my feelings on multiplayer, but what did I think about Blackout? Blackout is definitely the best Battle Royale experience I've had so far. It comes down to skill and ingenuity and outsmarting the other players. It's not who builds better ramps like in Fortnite or who's better at dealing with the clunky interface like in PUBG. And what's sad is this was an afterthought. You know, this launched well after PUBG and it looks 10 times better. But let's be honest, PUBG is dead and this game is one of the things that killed it. There's so many little things that I really enjoy about Blackout. I love the free falling. I love wingsuiting. I love that you can shoot from underwater. I love the silky smooth movement. I love sliding and jumping. I love sneaking around. It's really intuitive and it's really fun. There's a lot of great weapons scattered around the map. You know, pretty much every building you go into, you're going to find something. Sometimes you'll find weapons that are completely kitted out already. They're gold in color. They are really fun. They're really great to find because you don't have to find all the attachments. They're already on there for you. And I really love the gadgets you get to use that the specialists have in multiplayer. You get to use them here in Blackout. So you can throw down mesh mines to blow people up when they come in, try to get to your camping spot if you're a camper. You can shoot out a sensor dart into that final circle and maybe see where the last player or two are. Shoot them and take that win. You've got remote control cars where you can do recon without them seeing where you are. You've got grappling hooks so you can get out of a firefight if you need to, or you can get to a vantage point that people won't expect. You can throw down a barrier in a road or in a doorway to keep people from coming at you. Basically, every gadget that you find in this game really can make the difference between a win or a loss. And something else that I thought was a really cool touch is while you're running around this map, you'll also run into zombies in certain locations. And if you kill all those zombies, you might get some really sweet power-ups. You might get some really sweet weapons. But the only thing is, when you're shooting all those zombies, you're going to make a lot of noise. You might attract a bunch of players. So you really got to think strategically whether it's worth it or not. Close quarter fights are great, and they don't always come down to who sees the other person first. And when you're firing ranged weapons at enemies far away, it's really satisfying because you have travel time and bullet drop that you have to compensate for. So when you get a nice snipe from across the map, you really feel good about it. Even the lobby in Blackout is just much more fun than the lobby in Fortnite or PUBG. You can jump into vehicles, you can crash them into people, so you can have a lot of fun before your match starts. Or you can just sit there and chill. So what Treyarch basically did was they took all the best ideas from all the other Battle Royale games, streamlined them, refined them, and made them a lot cleaner and smoother. And then they added a couple of their own touches from the different modes, and they brought them into Blackout. So it definitely makes for a much more fun experience. I really love that nervous excitement that you get when you're getting down to those final few players, or you're in that second to last circle, and you know all it takes is one or two trigger pulls and you might win. Nothing beats that feeling. Even though this type of map is played out because we've been seeing it for the last 2 years in PUBG, I think it really works in this game because one, it looks a lot better. Two, it combines all of the classic Black Ops maps into one big beautiful battlefield, and it's a real highlight of the mode. I really love the fact that I can jump onto an ATV or a chopper or a truck and zoom to the center of where you think the circle might be and maybe get a leg up on the players. Now granted, you might attract attention and get shot at and stuff, but I think it's worth a risk. You can even take a chopper and land in certain places that people can't reach, so you can be protected till the end of the match, till you have to go into the final circle and take out those last few players. So again, there's a lot of strategy in this that you don't get in those other Battle Royale modes, and I think that's cool. There's a lot of bandages and health kits and trauma kits. You can really be saved later on in those final battles with all of this stuff that you can heal yourself with. Now, solo mode in Blackout can be fun, but it's definitely quads or duos that's the highlight. It's really fun when you get into these air-to-air battles with other teams. Usually you end up crashing your helicopter into them, or they crash it into you, and everybody dies. But while you're shooting at each other and trying to survive, it is really fun. And it's the same thing with the trucks. When you all jump into a truck, and then you see another truck coming, and you're kind of battling it out like it's Mad Max Fury Road, that's definitely dope. When you're playing with a bunch of people who are communicating and working together, It's just a really fun experience. It's one of the best multiplayer experiences that you're gonna have. It's probably the best multiplayer experience I've had since maybe Titanfall 2. It's definitely not that good, but it's up there. The connectivity in Blackout is absolute shit. It sucks. I've actually sat there for 3 hours while doing other things and basically trying to launch the game. It can't find a match, so then I relaunch it. Can't find a match, relaunch it over and over, and it could not find a match. How? There are millions of players around the world and we can't find a match. My friends and myself keep having a hard time finding matches, and that's because the servers are crap. The servers in general are crap because of the whole 20 hertz downgrade, but they're crap because there's nothing near us, and because I can never connect to Blackout, I end up just playing multiplayer. I can't play Blackout, which I really want to play, which is the main reason I got the game, because the servers won't let me, and it's total bullshit. And if you do get into a match, get ready to get kicked or to have a lockup or some kind of glitch that's super annoying, especially after you had to wait all that time to finally get into a match. The only way I can normally get into a match is by having a friend from somewhere else where they have servers invite me to their game. Then I can play. The inventory system is clunky and it's going to get you killed. It's got me killed so many times because it takes so long to loot bodies or boxes, because it doesn't just pop up an inventory of what's in their bag or what's in the box. You have to actually scroll through one thing at a time and take it piece by piece. So about halfway through looting a box or a body, you end up getting shot in the head because somebody from across the map heard the gunshots, came running towards you, and they see you bent over this box or this bag, and you get domed. What I don't understand is in between the matches, they have that cursor that you can move around the screen. Why can't we use that? Make a little inventory thing and let us use the cursor to pick out what we want to take from the bags to the boxes. It would be much easier and people would be a lot happier. You're going to run into a lot of people who don't want to cooperate, who don't want to talk. When you and some other players decide where you want to land, there's always going to be that one or two people that jump into someplace else. And of course, they end up getting smoked right away because they decide to go off and do their own thing. And that's if they're not shooting you and taking your stuff. And speaking of getting shot, one of the things that I dislike is the fact that when you fight with someone, your armor is destroyed and their armor is destroyed. So basically, if you engage in a firefight instead of avoiding it, you're going to have to go and find more armor someplace else, in addition to attracting attention. So maybe once you've won that firefight and you've got no armor now, somebody else comes up and shoots at you and then you die. Treyarch brought almost nothing new to the genre. Instead, just as a multiplayer, they ripped off and cleaned up a bunch of other people's ideas. Do something different like a hunt showdown. Flip the script and make something unique. The unlock and progression system for Blackout sucks. In zombies and in multiplayer, you unlock things fairly often and they're pretty cool and they definitely make a difference in your player. And in Blackout, you get nothing. For you to get to the normal unlocks, level 40, level 80, it is so much time. It's many hours. Now, when it comes to unlocking other skins from the other Black Ops modes that you can use in Blackout, you have to find something that randomly generates, like in the airdrops or in the weapons boxes you find around the map. And if you do happen to find one of those things, it gives you a bunch of tasks that you have to complete in order to unlock that player. Why not just give us a straightforward progression system that's more fun and it really keeps you going back and playing it? This mode does not give you anything to keep coming back for other than the thrill you have when you get to play with your friends. The level 3 armor is a little cheap, but you can see people wearing it and you can hear it when you hit them, so at least you have that. But definitely be ready for some cheese, and even if you shoot somebody right in the face with a Paladin sniper rifle, which is like the Barrett M28A1, they're probably still going to keep rocking and you're going to have to hit them a few more times. After a while playing Blackout, especially on solo, it just feels like you're doing it for nothing. You get nothing out of it, but that's really all I have to say about Blackout. So with Blackout out of the way, all that's left is zombies. The 3 different maps that you get in zombie mode are pretty fun. You get the Titanic, you get this gladiatorial arena, and you get Alcatraz. And I really like the fact that you can play with bots, so you can play solo if you want, or like me, if you're having a hard time connecting to servers or getting games, you can just play solo, make 3 bots come up, and then you run around and you play the game with them. Sure, there's some things that they can't do, certain objectives and turning on power and all that kind of stuff, but they can't open doors, they can't shoot the zombies, and you do get that playful banter between them, so it's, you know, it's a lot of fun. I really like the fact that there are custom game modes now in zombies. You can basically go in and tailor make your game to what you want it to be. So you can start with a certain amount of money, you can start with zombies at a certain speed, but just don't forget, this doesn't count towards your unlock progression in the zombie mode. I really like the perk system. I think it makes the game a lot of fun, but the bad thing is you get downed and you lose them. I really love the special weapons that you get in the game. They can definitely make a difference in your play style, and when you've got like a big zombie coming at you, or maybe a group of some of the stronger zombies, you kick in that special weapon and you can just destroy everything around you. And the more you use them, the stronger they get. You can get them up to level 3 and they do some crazy damage when you get to that point. I like the fact that you start with your elixirs now. You don't have to find them in different vending machines. There's a cooldown timer and then you can use them again. The different interactions between the characters that help fill in what story there is pretty nice. It adds some fun and some personality to the game. I love the fast, intense pacing of zombies. It doesn't give you a lot of room to breathe. Sometimes, yes, that can suck, but most of the time, it just adds this really welcome tension and it keeps you on your feet, especially when you only get that little bit of time in between the waves. And using some of these guns against a horde of zombies is just awesome. I love using a swordfish and using that 4-round burst and just shooting 3 or 4 zombies in a row just off of one shot. It's really cool. The pack-a-punch system really makes your weapons kick ass. You get a lot more damage and it gives them a lot of cool lighting effects, so you're running around with this glowing weapon and just destroying all these zombies. When you unlock the different branches and get further into the maps, you get pretty excited. Myself and most other people that I know usually get to a certain point and we just stop trying to unlock those areas and we just start killing zombies as much as possible, seeing how far we can get before we get overrun. And I think that's the fun of this, because really it's just a horde mode. This mode is buggy as f. If you are having a hard time connecting to multiplayer, or you just want to play some solo zombies, be ready to deal with some stupid stuff if you play with the bots. Yes, they do okay, but there are times when you'll get downed and they'll just keep running around even if there's no zombies there, and they won't pick you up and you'll die, and then your game is over. It's really frustrating and it's really dumb. They definitely need to fix the AI for these bots. But when I do get to go into a match and play with a bunch of people, it's great, especially if they know what you're supposed to do next. So obviously the first thing you always do usually is find the pack-a-punch, upgrade your weapon, and then you have to go around and find these really small kind of hidden clues to get further into the story. Most of the time, like I said, people just give up or they just don't know. But there's so many of these stupid little clues that you have to go in and find. To me, it's just not worth it. Why can't you give me, on top of this horde mode, give me a nice, cool level where we go from point A to point B, like something like Left 4 Dead or Vermintide or Earthfall. Just do something like that, you know? Don't keep doing the same shit. And of course, they've added microtransactions and shitty loot box style unlocks using RNG, and they definitely make it grindy to get the good stuff. You know, you got to use like 75 or 95 of these chemical bottles or whatever they're called. And usually, you know, if you did really well in a match, you're going to get like 10 of those maybe. So you got to play 6 or 7 or 8 matches to get one of the really good unlocks. And that can be a long time. You figure you know, you're putting 30 minutes into each match, you're playing 10 matches. Now, granted, I know it's not Left 4 Dead and I shouldn't be comparing the two, but after playing Left 4 Dead and some of these other cooperative shooters, they're definitely much more fun. Alright, so I've talked about all 3 modes individually. Now I'm going to give you my overall thoughts and my final score. This is a very polished gameplay experience that took a lot of other people's ideas, made it their own, refined it to varying degrees of success. Unlike the US and the UK, we don't have local servers, and that's why myself and every other single person that I know in this country who plays Black Ops 4 is very agitated, because we're trying to play this game and have fun, but we can't connect to the damn game. Obviously, for myself and most other players, not just in this region, but all over the world, Blackout is the star of the show. But the problem is, it doesn't work here, so all my friends and I do is play the multiplayer mode. It's so damn frustrating. And as a matter of fact, no other game I have for Xbox or PlayStation does this. Not one game. This is the only game. It's truly pathetic. And that's because Activision and Treyarch have taken their player base shove them to the side in order to make as much money as they can for their shareholders. And just to add insult on top of the shitty service that we're getting over here, they've gone and charged $60 for a game that's obviously worth $40. Every game that comes out that's multiplayer only is $20 or $30 or $40. So for them to have the nerve to come out and charge $60 for this, especially the state that it's in, it's definitely not right. And even better, like I said, they've locked 25% of the game that's on the disc behind paywalls. Activision and Treyarch are so greedy. So you're telling me on top of the $60 that I already paid for this really $40 game, I have to spend another $50 just to play another map on zombies, to have, you know, the old man in Blackout, and to have a couple more unlocks in the multiplayer mode? It's complete bullshit. The blatant disregard that Activision and Treyarch has had for their customers, especially over here in this region, just makes me want to say, F you Activision, you Treyarch. Alright, enough doom and gloom. I did love the gunplay. This game is fun when it works. When it works. All the different unlocks and zombies and multiplayer are great. So you'd think for a game with no single player campaign whatsoever, they would have taken a little more time and added a little more polish and maybe a few more things to the different modes, like more weapons, more unlocks, a lot more innovation and their own ideas. And since they were stealing other people's ideas, why didn't they steal like Conquest mode from Battlefield? You know, make a multifaceted ongoing campaign in multiplayer where two teams battle it out, and at the end of 2 or 3 days of this campaign, maybe in different territories and for different land and stuff, you know, one of them is crowned the victor. That would have been really cool. Something fun, something different in this game besides the normal multiplayer grind that we're used to. So we'd have something a little more substantial besides go to this point, lock it down and defend it until the end of the round, or go to this point. Oh, it changed. Now go to this point. Oh, it changed. Now go to this point. End of the match. That gets really old really fast. And you would think they would learn from people like Lawbreakers and other games that have failed because they're too repetitive. So all in all, Black Ops 4 is good fun, but it's not great. So what is my score? Drum roll, please. 6 out of 10.